Snowdon, The Sittings, 1979 to 1983, about 8.5 by about 11, 10.5, 11. Oh, actually, no, it is 10.5, yep, 10.5. I'm not sure how many pictures are in. There's plenty. I would say there's at least 100. Published in 1984 in cooperation with Condé Nast. So quickly, I don't know a lot about Snowdon. I'm aware of his work. I don't really know a great deal about the guy, or I didn't really know much about his work. So I got this just out of intrigue, really. He was a very good portrait photographer in his time, and it's a really interesting book, and I'm really pleased I picked it up, and I wanted to share it with you just to show you, give you an insight into some of the way he shoots and articulates his models and his setups and light and everything. A lot of it's, there's a number of it in the studio, there's a lot on location. Well, let's have a look. There's an introduction by John Mortimer. For those of you who know John Mortimer, I think he wrote All of the Bailey. A very interesting and intelligent guy, and I think he died a few years ago. And this is the introduction by John Mortimer. And this, I think, is his studio, and I think what this initial thing is, this is my studio in 1983, so it's almost like a forward by him, and this is about the interaction and how he works in the studio, how he sets up his light, his relationship with daylight and artificial light, and with his subject. He wasn't into talking much, I don't think, judging by what I've read from this, that he was very much into, he didn't like small talk, he just liked getting on with it. Don't quote me, you might be watching this, you might have been photographed by him, you may know better than I. Please educate us, I'd love to know more. So this is an insight into him, and this is an amazing shot, isn't it? Look at that. Tally McGregor as Tarzan and Alicia Burke as Carly. Okay. Oh, that's a young Tarzan, I get it. Oh. And there's Christopher Lambert and Andy McDowell. It's beautiful, isn't it? It's like a sort of Renaissance painting. It's very similar. If that was entered now for the Taylor Westing, that would win, wouldn't it? Without a doubt. Interesting. So he's photographed everybody, and I think the point of me searching through this is just to give you an insight into some of his work, if you're not familiar with it, maybe inspire you to get out and buy this book. You can buy this book for £5 online. You might want to take some of his techniques and his ideas into your photography, and that's what it's about. That's why I want to share it. It's one of them books you might have never seen or opened in them. I've got them sitting here in my shelf, and I want to share them. Henry Moore's hand holding a maquette from a mother and child sculpture. Okay, right, yeah. I've got the broken nail there. It's amazing. I might just see if I can drop this a little bit. Prince Charles and Diana. That's William. That's quite a good shot. It's very almost. Ah, I see, right. So this is his daughter Sarah, and assistant Andrew, and that's opposite door, and they're rehearsing this shot the day before, and that's the main shot. How interesting. The lighting, sees a little bit more light there in the eyes. There's a little bit more shadow in these ones. Interesting. Drew Barrymore, nominated for British Academy Award. That's so amazing. And that is Francis. So again, I think he's testing, or maybe he's not. Well, it could be. It's 82. That's his daughter. That's Drew Barrymore, 6. Lady Helen Windsor, 1982. his daughter. Sean Reason, age 11 at the Royal Ballet School, Richmond, 81. Wow. And what's this then? What? Previous page, Hayley Price, age 16, gymnast, represented Great Britain. Check that out. It's definitely very Sunday Times, isn't it? And I think he did work for the Sunday Times. And it's just like a spread I would expect to see in something like the Sunday Times magazine. It's got that feel about it. Sebastian Cole. Interesting. He likes low light, doesn't he? He's loves the tones, and it's very, very soft. Frank Bruno, 21. Wow. There is a little bit of insight into his way of using light in his forward, or whatever you want to call it, about how he set up his studio and how it's set up for light, and it's really interesting. I think he was fascinated with daylight, and I think that's what he wanted to create in his studio, this daylight essence, and that feel of that natural light. And it is an amazing thing, natural light. And as a photographer, it's something which you really need to understand lighting. And I'm not saying all of these are definitely shot not using flash, I don't really know, but they don't feel almost like paintings, aren't they? And maybe it's that natural daylight. This looks like a suede backdrop. This is Nureyev, 44, 1982. Rupert Everett. Jeremy Irons. Classic, aren't they? I mean, we must have seen these shots over the years. Eman Howard, fashion model. Eman Haywood, Lavenia Tucker. That's John Hurt, the Elephant Man. I think that's both, isn't it? Oh, okay, yeah. It's both John Hurt. That's amazing. Meryl Streep. It just gives you so much inspiration, doesn't it? And I wonder what format that's on. I think it's 5:4 maybe, or 6:7. I would say it's medium format, most definitely. But then again, I don't know. Rowan Atkinson, Ching Haro, Mr. Garbo, wow. Ah, is that Pamela Stevenson, right? Okay, get it. Judy Davis, Australian actress. Trevor Howard. Barry Humphries, Lindsay Anderson. David Potman, Hugh Hudson. You can take some portraits. Lady Antonio Fraser. There's a nice editorial mix with some very almost classic painting style studio portraits. When he gets it right, he absolutely he nails it. And what's interesting though, I like the way he's done that. I like the way he's took the shade out of that and give it a contrast. That's really interesting. That's something to think about. What I like about this is, and what I don't think we appreciate, is that you've got to be able to get the commissions to shoot this in the first place. You've got to have the trust and knowing that you're going to get the results. Clive Anderson, Anthony Burgess. And you're going to come back with something that's pretty amazing. So in itself, getting to that level of trust with commissioning editors and picture editors and stuff is pretty hard work. You know, it takes a lot of time to get the trust of editors and such, like, especially with such a demand in the market. But fact that you can keep getting interesting characters and people who have their own aura about them in terms of their celebrity status or whatever you want to call it, or acting status, or their position within society, to try and then create something which people will go wow to, is a skill. And as other photographers know, you know, like something like that, it's the simplicity. It's the simplicity of the shot, and it's the simple lighting, simple body posture, simple coming together, which can make it. And understanding the subject as well, you know, Gilbert and George. It's understanding what they're about to how you will then make something really interesting, and it's a skill. It really is. I mean, this is a shoot. Just to take it on another level and create something like that, what would you do in that situation with them two? And that's something you can ask yourself when you look at stuff like this. You know, what would you do in that similar situation? And I can learn by looking at the way he's done it and think, I like that. You know, the most obvious thing is people get people to turn the camera. The light usually is not, you know, there's only a sort of directness with the light, but there's obviously a lot of light coming in. So the light might not wash right over there, and he's got it in a really subtle tone, you know. It's really interesting how he's combined it really well. More editorial, Peter Blake, Frank Obert in his studio. Hockney, I think, I presume. Oh no, Yves Saint Laurent and Sir Hugh Carson, I thought it was Hockney. So Sidney Nolan and Carl Toms. He likes this sort of feeling of classic paintings technique, doesn't he? He's got us. I don't even know what style it is. Olivia as King Lear. So John Gielgud and Sir Ralph Richardson. It's nice. Alex Guinness. I guess some of these may be on set, are they? Or, I presume. Jane Peggy Ashcroft as the Countess, yeah. And at the time, that's another side to him, because he just played Smiley in Tinker Tailor, and he was much more serious, wasn't he? And that's sort of, it's just interesting taking it away from like something like that in character, you know. It's quite interesting. Richard Attenborough and Ben Kingsley, Ingrid Bergman. Really interesting. Some really interesting individuals with Murdoch, Howard Evans, Margaret Thatcher, Michael Foot. Yeah, you could take something like that. That's an octogenarian, Dame Freya Stark, explorer, sitting there just before she set off to do the Himalayas in 1979. Wow. I might look her up, Dame Freya Stark. Wow. I've learned something. That's just, you look at that and that. You can see he's taken a lot of influence from paintings. And he loves low light. Duke of Norfolk. A bit more of an editorial shot, much more simple. Lady Wilson. And Sir Satchwell Sitwell, wow, art historian. Well, this is Rebecca West, J.B. Priestley, Angus MacBean, Ben Travers. I want to end it on something. So Robert Mayer, patron promoter of concerts for children age 100, just before his wedding in 1980. Wow. Wow. It's like an age thing here. So it's like going through Sir John Betjeman. That's great. How is the interaction with the character? Look how he's made him. That's just Really interesting. There's the acknowledgement, there's the index, there's the end. What an interesting book. I picked this up for next to nothing, and I just wanted to put it out there. There's some nice portraits in there, some lovely ideas. I've learned a little bit looking at it. I've learned about composition, I'm learning about lighting, I'm learning in my head, you know, when you go and you have to take a portrait of somebody, research is the best knowledge, the best food you can get in how you want to show what you can do within your photography, is learn from other people. And I've just learned a few things here reading this. I hope you did too. Thanks for subscribing. Thank you to Olympus for helping out with the cameras. Thank you for following the channel. Please share, please subscribe. Thank you very much.